The topic for next panel discussion is very interesting. The topic says the future of food and leisure in malls 2022 and beyond. And the moderator for this session is Mr. Sharad Nagpal, who is the Senior Director, Retail Services, JLL India. Let us welcome him with a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the thought leaders on the panel today. The panelist doesn't need an introduction, and considering we are running short on time, I think we should just get going. So, the future of food and leisure in malls 2022 and beyond. So, just to set the context for the discussion, we are looking at a scenario today where the mall F&B and leisure percentage has reached from what used to be a 10 to 15% of the total mall area. We are now looking at a 20 to 25% of grade A shopping centers being dedicated to food, leisure, and entertainment. So from a future standpoint, how do we design this space? Is there a merit in increasing F&B beyond this percentage, or place it intelligently so that the footfalls increase, the conversions in other categories increase because of F&B? And I would like to invite Gurvineet, Mr. Tarak, and Vaibhav, just to share the initial thoughts before I move to other panel.
Am I audible? Yeah. So obviously, percentage is always a function of economics, right? So at Lakeshore, we have Viviana Mall, we have Arya. There is a mall which is under construction in Hyderabad. There is a mall which is under construction in Pune. So again, I'll start from Viviana, which is one of the successful centers which we're running. Earlier, there was a certain percentage of F&B starting from the F&B perspective. But we realized that there is a threshold which is crossing a certain amount of trading per square feet, which we felt that is going on a limit where we could probably get more mouths to feed. And thereby, we decided to add 5 more restaurants. And also, F&B as a function, you always have to look at evolving. There is a lot of churn which keeps happening. So when Viviana opened, there were X set of restaurants, and now there are Y set of restaurants, and with 0X, which is existing anymore in the last 7 years. So, the new age pubs, experiential F&B, so all of that you have to keep evolving with. Now, coming to the multiplex, entertainment, and other categories, which are non-fashion in nature, more of experiential, we've always felt that, the multiplex category specifically, for larger centers, have to be of a greater percentage. We are still of, old school of thought, new school of thought, I don't know, but we love megaplexes. We feel that in India, this is going forward also going to be one of the most, used entertainment measures by all the customers, and that's why all our shopping centers which are designed are 10 screen, 12 screen, 14 screen. So going forward, we believe that that percentage has to be high. Specifically coming to the entertainment segment, I feel that in India, compared to the rest of the developed world, the trading per square feet are far low, because India typically, or the shopping malls which we have, are not in the tourist segments. So they are typically in the areas where you need repeat customers, the local customers to come in.
Right.
So I was talking to one of the anchors which we have in Lakeshore malls, which says that in India, the trading per square feet for an entertainment concept is X, whereas in Dubai it is 3X, in Europe it is 4X. Yep. So the problem is that to put in that kind of capital into the country, into India and into the shopping centers, becomes a challenge, because the break-evens are 4 years, 5 years, sometimes even more, which becomes a challenge for them.
And then you have to refresh again.
Yeah. So concepts like, say, a super park, which is there in Siam Icon in Bangkok, concepts like, the snow park, which is there in UAE, SEA, or the aquariums, which are there in Singapore. These concepts now want to step in India, right? But the thing is that the capex requirement is like building one more shopping center.
Absolutely.
And the economics have to work, right? But there is, enough talks which are going on, and the future looks very bright on the entertainment part. Having said that, obviously, shopping centers now have to increase these percentages going forward, and we feel that the experience is more important because, there is fierce competition from online, and there has to be, that category which is insulated from such competition.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Tariq?
I love you, Guru. So I think to start with, thank you for advocating F&B as a retailer. I think 15-25% may not work soon.
Yeah.
I think it has to go to 50-50. And we need to be called anchors also, apart from PVRs of the world. So you have to rename us soon, I think. Because I think what happened in the last 2 years, I think food came back with a vengeance, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah.
There was revenge eating everywhere.
Absolutely.
And that is where it all started. I think food was the first thing which turned around.
They were the
hopefully.
leader of the pack.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I think to start with, the shopping centers need to give us that credit that we had got people back to the stores also, to the malls also. And to start with now, I think shopping center needs to look at maybe every 10th store a refueling station, as I put it, maybe a coffee shop or a donut brand or, even a salon, I think, to start with. I think you have to give that space. And I would also request the Shopping Centers Association to give people space. Don't sell every square feet of the mall.
Yeah.
And that could be a huge enabler. I think people don't want to touch each other today. I think that could be a starting point. Give more space to the people so that they endorse the shopping centers or they endorse the malls coming back again.
Right.
So that's it. I think, Guru, thank you again.
I think you are definitely the anchor. So if you look at the empty seats out here, F&B is the anchor out here. Look people outside and look people inside. They're just with F&B.
Yeah, so they are also back outside with the vengeance, I think.
No,
Yes.
absolutely. So I think what you're trying to say is that F&B will continue to play a far greater role. It probably has to be designed well in advance when you do the mall planning, rather than just designing a food court, few restaurants, few cafes on every floor. It has to be more inclusive, as you also mentioned, as a category breaker. And probably you have to create mini F&B zones across the shopping center, depending upon the size and which city the center is placed in, so that it becomes more inclusive part and yet not compete with each other across the floors. Because you can't have a situation that you have majority F&B on lower floors, then nobody will go up also, right?
Yes, I think you're right. I think you need to give that space to the customer every time they shop, they feel tired about it. Maybe we're talking about Le Marche in between. I think you spend a couple of hours in the store and then suddenly you come out and feel tired. What to do? You have some coffee. You have some donuts, I think.
Yeah.
You maybe get into a parlor.
But he will have both within his store, right?
No, but
he doesn't want the customer
no,
to
I
step
think
out.
after obviously he will endorse his brand there. I am sure about it. But when he comes out, I think he requires that space for himself. I think you give them space, you give them a place to sit and eat. I think 100% will be endorsed.
No, absolutely. So Amit, just to extend that argument from hypermarket consumer or daily needs perspective, how do you see this category getting played out in the design of shopping centers going forward?
Okay, sure. So firstly, we are a food brand which is also an anchor in most of the malls that we operate in.
Right.
See, as far as daily needs or even groceries or gourmet is concerned, I think there has to be acceptance of the fact that there is a thrust on online purchases, right? How does actually offline compete in such a scenario is by what we firmly believe at La Marche is bringing the product experience to life, right? What is it that additionally the consumer is getting when he or she walks into a La Marche store is important, right? There are 2 or 3 elements that I can talk about here. Firstly, in terms of quality, it is a fairly engaging aspect for any consumer, be it fresh non-veg, be it fruits and veggies. That is something which an online player will never be able to compete because the entire aspect of selection and variety is something which is driven by touch and feel, right? So that's something that we are able to do. At La Marche, we are also trying to bring that further to life in terms of educating the consumers as to how to leverage those products or how to use them in their daily lives. One of the examples that we were even talking about earlier as well, and something which might be a surprise to all of the selected gathering which is here, is that the highest selling SKU in La Marche, which is a 20,000 square feet supermarket selling only food and grocery products, is actually guacamole, right? We sell more guacamole in La Marche than even drinking water or atta or any other staples. Why we are able to do that is because we are not really selling guacamole as a product, but as a service. This means that the consumer walks into a store, picks up avocado, and we transform it into guacamole basis his choice for free. So that's the service that we are offering, which is lapped up, because if half of the consumer base is not even aware of what a guacamole is or how to actually eat an avocado, it's
Yeah,
right there in
educate.
front of them, right?
Yeah.
So which is also true for a category like home and personal care as an example, right? So La Marche obviously is not known till now for home and personal care in a big way. We are still largely a food brand.
Food,
But if you
yeah.
were to take makeup as an example, then we have a couple of FSUs in the store. The sale, whenever there is a makeup practitioner who's guiding the consumers, on those days is 7 times that of a normal day, right? So bringing that entire product experience to life is something which is absolutely essential for something which is a new and emerging category like mock meat or alternate proteins. How do you educate the consumer? How do you make them taste it? You actually make it part of the overall shopping experience is something which is absolutely critical. And if the TG is really a non-veg eater, then placing that in the non-veg section rather than a veg section
Yeah.
actually makes it better. And these are aspects which an online player will never be able to compete in.
Right. No, absolutely. So I would like to bring Mr. Kumaravil into this before I request Mr. Pramod Arora for his comments. And Vaibhav, you may wish to come in from a tech platform, since you are, the enabler which gets consumer, end consumer, retailers and developers all together in one platform. So from your category or categories such as yours, how do you feel that, going forward, you can be a far greater part of the ecosystem and not just be within a particular zone as defined by the shopping center guys, and the use of technology for cross collaborations, maybe with a PVR or a La Marche?
Yeah, first, happy afternoon to the many here and the few there. So I represent Natural Salon. When I come to the non-South, I have to say that I'm not an ice cream brand. So that's the other thing. I'm going to your question in specific. I think the Alvin Toffler puts it so beautifully. He says the illiterates of the 21st century are not the ones who cannot read and write. The illiterates of the 21st century are the ones who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Right.
I think that is the very important stage post-corona. We are all in. How much are we going to unlearn, especially, and going to relearn something and then take the business forward? In a mall situation, I think the big daddy of the mall is obviously the promoter, and who thinks very differently from the other retailer. I think time that every people should work together as a stakeholder. Only then I think the mall going forward will become very financially viable. Otherwise, just having it for a branding, those days are over. I think even the government should consider themselves as a stakeholder, not as a big daddy approach. It will not work. Coming specific to what can be done, I think one of the ideas we have been tossing on is something like each outlet, like salons or any other thing, there is an atrium space which is vacant. I think the atrium space, whenever it is vacant, should be given to the retailer to conduct some events there, which will drive footfall to the mall for all the people, including them, which will also bring popularity to this mall, to the individual players. I think, and then the tech, as he said, very rightly said, Pramod was talking about tech is only an enabler to bring the people to the outlet, it should not be a disabler to make them sit in the salon. Before the corona, during the corona rather, there is somebody said, I will do haircut from home. There are a lot of pictures and YouTube videos and Instagram posts that my husband giving haircut to the wife. All these tamashas will happen only as a tamasha. But as a business model, end of the day, our approach is, how can I make the customer to come to my outlet and how tech can enable there, and how can I collaborate with other retailers so that it can be mutually a win-win formula for everyone.
Right, right. Mr. Pramod Arora, and then Vaibhav, if you can just come in there. Yeah. So, sir, from a multiplex category point of view, probably you can take the other one.
Yeah.
So, cinema and entertainment, that's the space. How, and do you think, from your perspective, what Gurvinit also spoke about, do you think there is a merit of, increasing the number of screens, while it will have a play on things like, regional cinema, regional languages? How to get customer back into the cinemas, into the shopping centers, and keep them there for a certain period of time, as we were discussing offline?
First of all, let me convey my gratitude to all the people who are developing malls out here.
Yeah,
They are actually our growth engines. Had they not been there, we would have not been relevant,
right.
and there was no context to us. Second, to all my fellow colleagues, who in their rightful stream are the actual anchors who are getting people to go out of home or an out of home option,
Right.
by virtue of which we also end up enjoying a share of that out of home entertainment people coming out to watch films, to go to a salon, or to go to a departmental store, or to go to a gourmet hypermarket. So, the consumer is technically coming out to have an experience. That experience is now moving from a static experience to a dynamic memory. Many of the brands like that of ours are working towards it, and we do believe that, in a period of time that would really get successful. Talking about the size of cinemas that you suggested, I don't believe that there is much to change in and around that. The sizing of cinemas has been technically right across the country. They've been doing well as a sector. The pandemic was not the defining moment in terms of suggesting what the revenues and how it's going to pan out. Post-pandemic, the market is back, people are back, films are back. So we do believe that this was an aberration. It just told us a few things, as he rightly suggested, what we needed to unlearn, relearn, and just stand up and do the business as normal. In terms of the country is still very highly under-screened and under-malled. So, you are talking about another decade to set up as many malls that you want and as many cinemas that you want in those malls. They can still come in. There is space in and around this huge populace, which is called India. There's a large population base. So my take would be just go on doing the same thing, little bit differently, and there's going to be results around the corner.
Right. Vaibhav, if you can just, talk about from the tech platform perspective as an enabler.
Thanks, Sharad.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, my all fellow colleagues. So we've been talking about the different categories, the malls, the salons, the groceries, and the entertainment. They all come under the umbrella of a shopping center. And we had a discussion around increasing the percentage of F&B from 24% to 25%. I'm sure that was about the surface area. However, now I want to talk about the revenue share. Are there possibilities of increasing the revenue share of an F&B or for that matter, any store by not increasing the capex? Increasing the surface area or increasing the number of stores in a particular store obviously will bring in capex. Correct me if I'm wrong. So are there possibilities of increasing the revenue from the same capex? Yes, there are. This could be done by leveraging technology. What we are doing right now at a few malls at the food courts. So we have the technology which enables them to order online, and then the order gets served on the table. That's the customer wow. Not just the experience, that's the customer wow. So what we have done, we have added the CDR experience to the QSR. So what are the implications of that? So it's first customer experience, then customer retention. Customer wants to come back. Another thing, the average ticket value per order has increased. This has gone up by, so the malls, the food courts, average ticket value is 10 to 20% lower than what ours is. Third, there's a suggestive selling, which doesn't happen at a food court or at a QSR. My people who are over there, they act as an influencer and they try to add a dessert. So what we have seen in the last 5-6 months, the dessert has become a prominent part of the people who are visiting the food courts. So these are 4 things which are very prominent, which has happened. How it has been done? It has been done by leveraging the technology at the food courts, by giving the technology to the people who are already in the food courts. Now we talk about the people who are not at the food courts or people who are not at the mall. So do you want to sell your product to the people who are not at the mall or to the people who are pre-sell your product? Do you want to have orders for for 12:30 if it's 10 a.m. in the morning? Because still, if you look at the online market, so shopping centers are competing against online shopping centers. So there are two types of it. We all are sitting over here to discuss how we can take this thing ahead, how we can revive or by, fortunately, I would say we have revived to the post-COVID level, almost there. So we are sitting over here to how to increase the revenue. So at the end of the day, money makes all the sense. How much money you are earning from that particular center, is this profitable or is it not? So technology can be used to make your existing setup profitable. Technology can be used to grant that customer wow and customer experience. Technology should be used to create that customer retention. Discounts and other things as a part and parcel of the game, which comes and which goes, which players come, they go. They want customers, initially customers to hook up to their platforms. And then eventually all the discounts vanish. So that's a game that's required to change their behavior. So apart from food courts, what we are doing with the retail stores, we have self-checkouts. So these self-checkouts are not capital intensive. So the customer's mobile becomes the POS, and he scans the product using the mobile, she pays online, and she moves out. There is technology which is theft prevention. So how we are using the technology? So there are curbside pickups. Curbside pickups, using the technology, Amit said during the conversation that they are very famous in the West, but however in India, the adaptation is low because awareness is low. So anything which has to be adapted has to be taught of. There has to be, there's an IDA, marketing idea hai, which everybody must be knowing about here. Awareness, interest, desire, and action. To come to that action point, you need to go through these three steps: awareness, interest, and desire. So what we are using, what we are doing at the shopping center, we are trying to create an ecosystem, digital ecosystem, which can engage the customers better, which can engage the people who wants to come out of their house, of their homes, of their places, who wants to spend time with their families. And believe me, in India, in the tier 1 cities or tier 2 cities where the malls have come up or shopping centers have come up, these are the best places where families want to go because they have everything for every generation. They have gaming zones, they have food courts, they have cinemas, they have shopping centers. So family outing these days means 80% of the time going to a nearby shopping center.
Vaibhav, you spoke about technology and how you integrating all stakeholders, but I just wanted to quickly come in and pick everyone's brains on this. So there is some tech play happening at the retailer occupier level already. So PVR is doing app-enabled things wherein you can pre-order your meals even before you step into the cinema and the food gets delivered onto your seat. Something similar to what you are doing in your food court play. So I think all stakeholders will also have to collaborate and see what, and everybody's skin in the game has to be there. So a developer...
Just add one thing over here. So technology, mobile application and web-based application, there are two things.
Right.
When a standalone company develops a mobile application, it's very difficult for the people, it's very difficult for the company to make it download it.
Yeah.
However, why the aggregators are famous? Because they give the customer, the user, the experience and access to a lot of things around.
Right, right.
So that's the power of an aggregator app or a web-based technology.
Right.
So that the technology is also shifting. There's a learning curve in the technology as well. New technologies are coming in. We have seen Amazon Go. So things would be very different in India. Autonomous checkouts, AR, VR, everything is there. So we need to use technology to increase the experience of the customer who is already willing to visit the store.
Right, right. Now, coming on to another related topic, how to rethink certain retail formats and categories, some innovative categories to draw in more footfalls into the mall, apart from just the weekend shopping or the dinner shopping, for which people come because of mostly F&B. Things like cooking classes, flea markets, in the way our centers are designed, and this is mostly for Monday to Thursday probably, or Monday to Wednesday, and in the pre-lunch hours, how to get people inside the malls, maybe for a movie, maybe for grocery shopping. I know from a hypermarket perspective, Wednesdays are typically mid of the week where a lot of grocery shopping happens, right? Monday and Tuesday are the slowest, right? And then it starts picking up from Wednesday onwards. But I wanted to understand, is there a merit, or do these actually make an impact at a conversion level? Amit, if you can start with that.
So we've done those, right? We've had partnerships with celeb chefs coming on and also educating our consumers to how to use certain ingredients. Basically adds to the engagement.
Right.
Is there enough and more traction which gets built up over time? That is still debatable because you'll never be able to track that to that extent. But yes, it definitely adds to loyalty, right?
Right.
I think the larger point there would be that because all these points are related to maximizing the value of consumers walking into your store, right?
Right.
Given the pandemic and the related challenges, the issue is that the footfalls and the time spent by the consumers in the stores is under stress, right? So what we should also perhaps discuss about, and it was been touched on briefly because of tech, but if we add collaboration on that, and how do we actually get our experience of our store to consumers who are not really walking into our stores, right? So one such example that we've done at La Marche as an example is that with the number of salons which are there in the mall, right, we've made our menu available of our fresh beverages. So if the consumer wants it, the salon owner doesn't really have to hold inventory, the order can get placed, and the same gets delivered, right?
Right.
We were discussing earlier that this is just an extension of how do we get the experience across to the consumer. Maybe one day it could also be that they've only come in for a specific purchase, but they can add the grocery basket to their cart, and it could simply be delivered to the parking space, and it's a hassle-free experience for them.
Right,
So
right.
aspects like these will significantly add value to the overall aspect because the footfalls are under stress.
Right, right. Mr. Kumarwal, just your perspective on this thought.
No, something like a bridal makeup demo or a contest or something like that can bring the sari person to the picture, can bring the jewelry person to the picture,
Right,
can
right.
bring all the other people to come together and demo something, and that can be a really footfall. And it can also be a great PR value to all the brands and also to the mall. I think that will really make the mall tick and also the retailer tick. That will be my take on that.
Pramod sir, in your category, you think that such
So, you know, there are changes which are happening. It's a dynamic word. So we're also moving ahead with the changes. Initially, the cinemas used to be the places to watch films. Today, you know, you can wine, dine, make merry, and if you deem fit, watch a film. If you don't, you could just come, wine, dine, and make merry and go back. So JWD is a classical example, which is one of our recent cinemas. And if you get in there, you may not like to come there to watch a film, but you will definitely come to, you know, have a drink, have your meal, probably have a game of pool, and then go back. So these are places which are like converging into entertainment, leisure together, alongside with F&B, and most of our F&B is, you know, gourmet options that we end up offering. So technically, there's convergence in and around that. And I believe it is for the larger good. And, you know, as I rightly said, right in the beginning, F&B is a great driver. You can see it out here. The empty streets still suggest that F&B outside this room is the driver, not what is happening inside.
there's F&B happening outside.
For us, I think at MOD, I think we do a lot of activities such as, you know, topping your own donuts, where we invite guests right from kids to, you know, a 6-year-old also to come and top their own donuts. So usually that's a huge enabler, you know, especially in malls where people come over the weekend, you know, try out something new. So this has been a huge enabler for people to come and then, you know, transfer them into the stores of ours. And it's a huge brand engagement, I think. And I think that is how, you know, brand starts recognized also. So this is, I think such activities should happen, especially F&B, where people can do their own stuff, etc., and, you know, feel happy about it.
Right, thanks.
So similar thoughts. So casual leasing, flea markets.
Yeah.
One thing which, you know, I would want to highlight is that for shopping centers, they need to understand that it has to be classy. The main focus has to be shopping inside the stores which are on lease, right? So that has to always be on top priority. So you don't spoil the experience of the customers who are actually coming for that.
Yeah.
So in our malls, we don't allow mics. You know, we don't allow an anchor now to allow customers to come and sing or dance, because that creates nuisance. We've tried it in different ways, but we feel that the events have to be very classy. That should add to the experience of the customer. Second is that, if you look at the percentage, we get, say, in a successful shopping center, in all A-grade shopping centers, around 40,000 to 50,000 people on a weekend, right? So that experience on a weekend should never be spoiled rather by doing an extra bit to get that 500 more people, right? So you cater to those 40,000 people, and you try out these activities on the weekdays where you want the mall to be more buzzing, right? So then the timing also becomes important. So that's what I feel.
Same thoughts, same thoughts. The customer experience should be the top priority. So if you have a Tarla Dalal or if you have Sanjeev Kapoor coming in for a cooking class, then it really makes sense. You host an event. And as Gurmeet said, not on the weekends, weekdays would be the best thing of doing it. The customer experience in the class, there's a typical target TG of every mall. So the malls need to take care of that. And accordingly, all the things are anchors or hookers. They can bring in extra footfall. However, the bottom line is the CX, which has to be maintained.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. If any of the panel members, want to, discuss something specific, otherwise I think we're done. Or anybody in the audience has any questions? I think we have just 2 minutes before we wrap up the session. I think everybody's focusing on the F&B outside, as you mentioned. Thanks a lot to the panel members. Thank you.